Part of me felt like when I lost my friend TJ, when I lost NCAAs, and even back to high school, I never won a state championship. I was a runner-up my junior year. My senior year, I lost in the semifinals and got third. So I just felt like why couldn't I ever accomplish the goals that I set for myself? Why do I always feel like I fall just short? So now, finally, like breaking through and having success, it's like you had to learn those lessons. You had to understand, what struggle is, to understand how good it feels to actually win. If you're just handed everything and you win everything your whole life, like there's no sunshine without rain, right? So it feels a lot better now, having a lot of those losses and a lot of those times where I came up short. Now to have success, it means a lot more to get gold medals. Amor Fati, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what God has set out for you. You don't know what lessons these negative things might be giving you until, you don't know until you know. So I would just say, have faith and trust in yourself, believe in yourself. Take these things as positively as you can. Use them as your fuel for your fire and keep pushing forward because, there's always sunshine at the end of the horizon. And again, you don't know sunshine without rain. So take the rain and use it as motivation. Celebration. What's up? I'm Cameron Hurd. I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. I played like all sports growing up. Didn't really grow until I got a little older, so I was a late bloomer. So yeah, wrestling kind of quickly became my favorite sport. I kind of naturally gravitated towards it. Wrestled from the age 5 all the way up through Division I at Virginia Tech, and having success along the way in high school and middle school, and eventually in college. So that was where my wrestling foundation came from, anyways. And then a few years after college, got into jiu-jitsu. It meant a lot to me. Like I made some of my best friends that I still talk to every day through wrestling. I met them in the youth program that I started in. I was very fortunate where I grew up. We had a youth program that was led by the high school coach that ended up being my high school coach, Mark Agner. So, I quickly formed like a brotherhood with a lot of my teammates from an early age, and then we grew up training together, going to camps together and everything, and ended up being long-term friends. So it made a lot of good friends for me, along the way. Yeah, I grew up 45 minutes from Virginia Tech. It was a goal to always go to Virginia Tech and like play a sport at Virginia Tech, and I just had to figure out, what's my sport. And then once I realized wrestling was my sport, it lined up pretty well. Like I said, I came in freshman year at Liberty. Sophomore year, I went to Virginia Tech, and they said I was a redshirt that year. Again, I was like an invited walk-on, so I wasn't like center of attention, if you will. I think kind of got overlooked a little bit, and my redshirt sophomore year, the year that I was supposed to be a redshirt, I wrestled attached to the university at the Davidson Open. So I cracked the starting lineup finally. I wrestled 165 some during the season just due to some injuries on the team, but 157 was the spot that I was starting at, and week before the ACC wrestling tournament, my best friend was killed in Afghanistan, and getting that news like during prep for finally cracking the lineup, finally getting a shot at the ACC wrestling tournament, it was pretty tough to deal with, ended up being his funeral was on the ACC, the day of the ACC wrestling tournament, so that was another kind of like blow to the gut, like, do I skip the wrestling tournament that I've waited my whole life to wrestle in to go to his funeral, or do I go to his funeral, or do I skip the tournament and go to his funeral, or do I wrestle, in his honor. And knowing my buddy TJ, like I know he would tell me, better get your ass out there and wrestle. And his dad told me the same thing. So tough decision, but really there was only one decision to make, and that was to go wrestle and try to make him proud. So yeah, then the ACC wrestling tournament comes. You know, I'm wrestling pretty well, and in the semifinals I had UNC's head coach's son. We were wrestling at UNC, so kind of in enemy territory. Definitely the cards were stacked against me a little bit. It was a close match. I ended up losing by 1 point. You know, got some pretty crappy calls against me, and that kept me out of the finals, which ended up making me miss the qualification for the NCAA tournament that year. Pretty two heavy blows back to back of losing my best friend, going out there trying to compete in his honor, and then getting it kind of taken away from me. I mean, I was bummed, obviously, like super upset that I didn't, you know, accomplish what I wanted to, especially in his honor on that weekend, same day as his funeral. But at the same time, in the back of my head at the time, I was like, well, at least I've got another year. And, you know, I can come out here next year and really make a statement and work really hard all off season to do that. And so I did that. I worked hard all off season, and then, like I said, 2 weeks before classes started, got the call that said my redshirt year was actually a wash and that I was no longer eligible. So another kick to the gut. It was kind of surreal. It's like hard to accept at first, because, you know, when I got the call from my coach, I just like broke down in tears. It was like, what? Like, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, that's it. And so, yeah, it was like, you know, it's over now. And like you said, I mean, over 18 years of wrestling just come to a halt. So yeah, during that time, just working on my career, you know, got into the workforce, and, you know, I was staying active, like as far as like lifting weights and trying to still stay in some shape, but there was no competition. And, you know, I feel like there was a void that was still inside that was like not being filled. And a friend of mine introduced me to jiu-jitsu and was like, you know, he was also a wrestler, so he was like saying that similar to wrestling, feels like, you know, could be something that I might be able to get the hang of. Yeah, it took me to a couple classes and pretty instantly like fell in love with jiu-jitsu, just like wrestling all over again. Felt like the same drive and fire that I had for wrestling was like relit again for jiu-jitsu, and I was like, you know, maybe there's more left to this story. Like I said, I instantly was drawn to it, then wanted to test it out, and, you know, like a local tournament at a white belt level. Did really well, and then wanted to move it up from that point, you know, and kept competing on like larger and larger scales, getting into some of the IBJJF stuff, and, you know, testing myself at blue belt. Eventually winning a Masters 1 blue belt world title and a double gold at Pans. So I was like, well, you know, I did it at least at the Masters level, so like I did it at this point. I'm 32 years old, so like maybe I could drop down into the adult divisions and maybe make some noise like on a real global, on a global level. And that's what I've been doing the last few years. So, you know, after that I dropped down into the adult divisions. I've been really competing a lot in the ADCCs, on PGF, and anything else I can get my hands on, really. Just trying to keep writing more to my story and see how high I can climb on the competition stages. Everything happens for a reason, for one. Two, you can't change it, so there's no need to cry over spilled milk. And yeah, it's just like, you know, maybe this is gonna be some key factor in something down the road, you never know. So just accepting things for what they are and using them however you can in a positive way. Like, it's easy to use it as a negative way too. Like, it's all up to you and how you wanna apply it, you know, whether something impacts you positively or negatively. You can make it affect you positively, no matter what, just with the right mindset. And yeah, so I think learning those lessons and realizing, you know, even though bad things have happened to me in the past or happened to other people in the past, doesn't mean that has to be like the end all be all. You can take it for what it is, and you can trust that what's meant to be is gonna happen one way or another. So, I mean, it kind of even ties back into Amor Fati. Like, trust your fate. Like, who would have guessed that today, Memorial Day, I would get to share about TJ and talk about this story. Like, it just really happened to line up, and it was very short notice, you know, and I was just believed that, you know, it was meant to be able to tell his story on Memorial Day, this day that we get off of work and we get a long weekend, and, you know, the reason for all this is because of someone else's sacrifice. So means means a lot. Means a lot to be able to honor him, you know, especially on this day. So it just, everything happens for a reason. It all, you know, it's all meant to be. And being able to share his story on Memorial Day was just cherry on top to being able to share his story in general. So I really appreciate you guys, you know, coming all this way and being able to sit down and talk with me and let me tell my story a little bit. So that's another thing I feel like that kind of drew me in and got me stuck with jiu-jitsu, is just the community of people, especially here at Ascend Jiu-Jitsu. We have, my professor Sean Stoutman has cultivated like a very welcoming environment. People of all walks of life, you know, all different types of people are in here, and everybody welcomes everyone. But also we all push each other, you know, especially the comp team. We got a lot of tough competitors in here. You know, iron sharpens iron, and that's exactly what we do in here every day. So it's like a family, you know. It's a big support system when I go out and compete. I've got teammates that travel with me sometimes and compete at some of these tournaments. Some of these tournaments I go solo. But no matter what, I know I've got like a great support system behind me. People watching from home, people, you know, texting me all the time, sending me little messages and keeping me, reminding me of you know, who all I'm doing this for. It's not just for me, it's not just for TJ, it is for TJ, but it's for my family, it's for my team, it's for TJ, it's for you know, it's for a lot of people. So to have a great support system and a great gym like I do here at Silverback, it means a lot, and that's really what keeps me coming back every day.